We have the team sheets. Len, do you want to just start talking about their teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get into it. This Sinestro, I think, is the first thing I see on Toler's team. It provides a lot of sustain for the entire team, not only with the hospitality ability, healing on every switch in, but it also has life do, so it can have a little bit more continuous healing for the team. And I think that's going to be helpful for this Archaludon. Has the assault vest to stay bulky on the special side, and then of course has stamina to get physical defense boost every single time it gets hit, has body press to try to take advantage of that. So that's something that a lot of teams can have difficulty kind of fighting down. If you don't have the damage quickly enough, then it can start to get boosted up. But of course, one of Archaludon's least favorite opponents on the other side is that Landorus Incarnate. Is able to deal a ton of damage even despite the Assault Vest if that Earth Power is able to land. It is the bug terrestrialization on Toler's side, so he's going to have a resistance available if he wants to get out of that Earth Power. But I think that may be one of the stories of this match.
Yep, let's take a deeper dive as you see Toler's team presented to you on the screen here. Again, you know, it's a team that's a lot different than Toler's winning Knoxville team, right? It's a lot. I mean, there's only a few pieces that are pretty similar in Incineroar, but it's completely different. And this is a team that he's been working on for a long time.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of top players kind of moving, experimenting and trying out Pelipper and Rain modes. I think this is a very interesting take on it. I think something that's been interesting to watch over the last couple of weeks of Regulation F is where Pokemon that have been high in usage the entire time, people are starting to get a little more playful with what movesets are. You can see things like the close combat missing on this Urshifu Rapid Strike, Helping Hand on the Incineroar. These kind of subtle changes can help find new options. I think having both the priority and the U-turn, which is of course going to be really helpful for the Ogerpon Wellspring on Olivia's side of the field. You love to be able to just chunk that with U-turn and get off the field without having to take a grass move. Allows it to have an impact without risking itself nearly as often, but it's being able to balance that with still having Aqua Jet and Protect.
Yep, and the Pelipper, a Pokemon that you actually had high hopes for coming into this tournament. Didn't quite make your caster prediction, but it is there, and it does provide a lot of support, being able to bring the rain as well as Pokemon that has access to Wide Guard. So Wide Guard is a very great support move that will be able to help prevent damage being dealt to your team from spread moves. And there you see it. Toler's fun fact is that he's been cooking up this team for the past 4 months, and this is his first time bringing it to competitive play. So it's currently sitting 4-0 with this team, so it must be pretty comfortable.
It's one of the things we talked about in the Open. This is the last chance. If there's a team you've been working on that you think can maybe make a break for it, this is the last major tournament in Regulation F, and so now's the time to have that come to fruition, and so far looking pretty good for Toler.
But over on the other side, Olivia does have a pretty strong team too, also 4-0. The team itself is a very physical team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of team you have when you have the Gouging Fire, because you want as many possible targets for the Howl as you can. And so whether that's a Gouging Fire next to King Gambit or next to Qianpao, next to Rillaboom, any of these can have an impact on the match. But it means that Archaludon has a lot of things it doesn't really mind fighting. If it can get the defense boost or two against these Pokemon that really can't do much damage in any situation, the Gouging Fire, the Rillaboom, then it can start to fight against some of the Pokemon that otherwise would be able to do okay, like the King Gambit with Low Kick.
Yeah, and with a lot of physical attackers, you know, one thing that Sinistcha does have is the Machagacha to potentially throw out burns, but of course, a lot of these Pokemon resist that Machagacha, so bringing Sinistcha might be a little bit tough for Toler, but getting burns would be great. Fun fact for Olivia, Gothitel's #1 fan. You can even see the Gothitelle plush right there on the table. Gothitelle, a Pokemon with some VGC history.
Yeah, for sure, some history before it got Shadow Tag, a lot more history afterwards, but not going to be in this match, unfortunately.
Gothitelle of world champion winning Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like both players right now are getting ready to jump into it as the players shake hands. Len, what is going to be the key for Toler to try to break through Olivia's team, and what are the keys for Olivia to look into?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think one of the keys is going to be this Archaludon, and if you can deal with the couple of really difficult options for it, the Qianpao, the Landorus Incarnate on the other side. I also think speed control could be an important factor in this match. If you can get to outpace the Landorus on the other side or the Qianpao on the other side, then it is so much easier to deal with. And that's going to be difficult to do. No, there's no Tailwind on the Pelipper to try to get faster, and the Trick Room on Sinestro may be a little bit hard to get down. You have to worry about a Qianpao or a King Gambit, Kowtow Cleave coming in, or even something like Gouging Fire Heat Crash, if you haven't had Pelipper on the field to weaken that yet, means that it's going to be difficult to kind of wrestle speed control in this match.
Yep, so Olivia will have options to stop the Trick Room setup for Toler here. It's going to be a very fun battle to watch, though. It's going to be exciting to watch these two 4-0 players try to move on to 5-0. You know what happens when you move on to 5-0, Len?
What's that?
You only have 2 wins until you make it to 7-0.
Yep, you get one step closer. Yep.
I'm a math guy.
You are a math guy. Our math whiz on the stream. I'm going to come to you with the first damage calculation we need an accurate result for.
Yeah, sure. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I got you. I got you. Any math that you need done, Len, I will do it. Both players now locking in their teams as we get ready to jump here into Swiss round 5 between Toler and Olivia. Len, I'm excited. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the tone of the beginning of this match. I think what leads come out, who can get the initial pressure is going to be so important.
And Olivia will lead with Ogerpon and Landris, while Toler will lead with Archaludon and Pelipper. So the rain is going to be falling here. We'll be able to boost Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgels, but most importantly, weaken any possible fire type attacks that Sinestro might not want to take at all in the back.
Yeah, so Pelipper's on the field, the rain is immediately down. That means the Electro Shot is an immediate option for the Archaludon, but not into either of these targets. Archaludon already on the back foot with the Landers on the other side. Pelipper, though, really doesn't mind this position. I mean, it doesn't want to take a Sludge Bomb, but otherwise doesn't have too much damage coming in. And if you can land a Hurricane into that Ogerpon, that's be a ton of damage, but also a Weather Ball into Landers, which makes it difficult for Olivia. You don't really know where the damage is coming from, and so it's hard to take a safe turn on this turn.
Archaludon will switch out. Sinestro will take the field here, so not a terrible position. We'll be able to do it with that Ogerpon, as Ogerpon on Olivia's side will Horn Leech into the Pelipper, and here's the Sludge Bomb into Pelipper, gets the KO, so one Pokemon taken out already on Toler's side of the field.
Yeah, and so Pelipper was in kind of a fragile but okay position. I couldn't take too much damage from either one, but that double up does have enough damage. You can see just the frailty on this Pelipper. It is holding a Focus Sash, probably meaning it's more invested in speed and offense, and isn't able to take that Horn Leech Sludge Bomb double up. And because the Archaludon was forced off the field, that just gets traded for nothing. And immediately Toler really on the back foot here.
Toler will send in Urshifu here, as Sinestro does opt to try to set up Trick Room. And again, this Urshifu doesn't really have anything that can hit into the Ogerpon except a U-turn, but that will be a good option to pivot out and possibly set up for Archaludon to be performing under Trick Room.
Yeah, you do have to wonder if the Urshifu, though, would be the slowest Pokemon on the field right now. You don't really want to try to get a U-turn off to get off the field if you're going to have to take an Earth Power or a Horn Leech first in the process.
Olivia will switch out Landorus here, as it will be replaced by the Rillaboom over on Olivia's side. Going to set up that grassy terrain, going to slowly heal back all Pokemon, but also boost grass-type attacks here, as you know, now Ogerpon will get a boost of Horn Leech, does not get the KO on Urshifu. Urshifu hangs on with just a sliver of health, and here is a U-turn, does 50% to that Ogerpon, and will reveal Toler's, oh, sorry, not reveal, but Archaludon will now take the field here, as Sinestro will be able to set up this Trick Room.
Yeah, I mean, this turns into a pretty good position for Archaludon. These are the two Pokemon it probably most wants to fight on Olivia's side of the field. Comes in with Trick Room up, so that even if that Landorus comes back on the field, it won't have to immediately worry about an Earth Power. You know, Toler definitely very far behind in this game. Has already lost a Pokemon and has lost most of that Urshifu's health, but has clawed into a position where he's the one now pressing the attack, has the Trick Room, has the Archaludon in this great position. He's going to have to make a ton out of this in order to take back just the health bar disadvantage that he's already in. And Archaludon doesn't often do a ton of quick damage. You know, it can go for Electroshots to get boosted and do a bunch of damage, but these are not the most vulnerable targets to that, and you have to worry about Landorus coming in at any point. And with no defense boost yet, you don't have the body press option. Draco could do a ton of damage, but then you're not going to be able to press the continued attack afterwards.
There's one defense boost for the Archaludon, as Sinestro will use Machagacha here, does connect onto the Ogerpon, bringing it down into the red zone here, as Archaludon will flinch, not being able to move. But here is the Ivy Cudgel from the Ogerpon, boosted by the rain, not very effective into the Sinestro, as Sinestro will restore its HP, oh, I guess grassy terrain all throughout. So, yep. There is one defense boost right now, so it will have access to body press, at least a boosted body press, so that's what Archaludon has going for it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ends up, like, you can see how the two Pokemon on the field for Toler are just have a type advantage that means that they are able to be bulky on the field. The best target for that Ogerpon on the other side was a resisted Ivy Cudgel. Right? It didn't actually do very much damage. And so if Toler can continue to make positive trades like the one in the last turn, accumulate a few defense boosts, then there's a path back in here, but the Landorus is always going to be lurking, waiting for Trick Room to expire, waiting to be able to threaten so much damage onto Toler's side. There's not going to be a good switch in for it with Urshifu already weakened and the Terastallization not helping.
Ogerpon protects itself with the Spiky Shield as Sinistra content to just continue to go for Montegachas here, fishing for a burn to weaken the damage output onto the Rillaboom. Does not get it as more grassy. Oh, sorry, it heals itself. There's the burn. Sorry for the delayed animation reactions, but the Rillaboom is burned out as our Charlodon will set up its special attack with this Electro Shot.
Yeah, so starting to accumulate those stat boosts that are so important for our Charlodon, has some defense, now has some special attack, and this Rillaboom is looking pretty weakened, is burnt, is down to about a third of its health bar, and is not really able to pump out much damage. That burned Wood Hammer does very little to the Sinestia and takes a little bit of recoil back on the other side.
Yeah, even though it's boosted by that Grassy Terrain, that burn is paying off so much, and that's something that Toler does want to try to lay down onto a lot of Olivia's physical team. But here we go. There's still 2 turns of Trick Room remaining for Toler to take advantage. So now the game comes down to how much damage can this Archaludon continue to lay down before Trick Room expires and that Landorus comes in and starts threatening massive amounts of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Olivia's approach here is really interesting, continuing to just fight in this position, even disadvantages, forcing turns to go by. We get another turn of Trick Room spent, just dealing with these 2 Pokemon.
And another Machagacha does get the KO on the Ogerpon. Rillaboom will be brought down to extremely low health. An Electro Shot would be a pretty good option to follow into that Rillaboom slot to be able to get another special attack boost and also get the KO on the Rillaboom. So here we go to continue on the turn. Our Charlodon contended just use a Flash Cannon, maybe covering for a potential Landorus switch that does get the KO on the Rillaboom. No special attack boost, although I guess it could, in a way, be greedy to try to go for an Electro Shot there, knowing that there's Landorus in the back.
Yeah, you definitely don't want a Landorus to just come in for free. You want to make sure and redeem both of those KOs that Sinestia and Archaludon have worked so hard for in Trick Room. But now we're getting towards the end of Trick Room, and there's going to be so much damage threatened back from Olivia. You can see how she was content to let these 2 Pokemon just fight it out for a while, lose that fight eventually, but now with probably a double protect coming in here, there's going to be a lot of offense afterwards.
Yeah, so the final turn of Trick Room here, Qianpao takes the field. That is Olivia's last Pokemon. Landorus will take the field again. So again, this last turn of Trick Room most likely just going to land into 2 double protects, as Qianpao will be able to threaten the Sinistra the next turn, and the Landorus will be able to lay down a massive amount of damage on that Charlodon. So good position right here for Olivia to function outside of Trick Room. So one of the things when you play against Trick Room is that how do you deal with Trick Room as Landorus does protect itself here, and here is a Qianpao protect as well. So as you said, just trying to burn out this Trick Room.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Toler spins Terastallization on the next turn. You have to imagine he's going to spend it. The Sinistia is threatened by Icicle Crash, the Archaludon threatened by Earth Power. Maybe both of these Pokemon bulky enough that that isn't a KO. It definitely would be if it was doubled up with the other side. But if you spend a Fairy Terastallization on Sinistia to weaken that damage, or a Bug Terastallization on Archaludon, they will weather that turn and be able to pump out a lot of damage. I think there's definitely going to be a game of prediction, because the other option is to just bring in Urshifu into one of those slots, diffuse damage coming into one spot by sacrificing the Urshifu, because if Toler can either get the Landorus traded away or get Trick Room back up again to press another 4 turns of offense afterwards, this game is in his reach absolutely, but this could be a really critical turn for Olivia to find the damage.
And how does Olivia want to spread this damage out right now? Because you're right, the Terastallization has not been spent yet, as Toler will retreat the Sinistra. It will be the Urshifu to take the field again. That has already taken so much damage early on. Here it is, Terastallization over on, looks like it will be the Qianpao here to Terastallize, will be the Stellar type. So Olivia Terastallizing here, trying to get this Qianpao to deal some more damage.
Yeah, just trying to take the most advantage of the damage available on this turn. Toler then going to Terastallize the Archaludon, turning into a bug type and resisting Earth Power. And Sacred Sword if that was coming in from the Qianpao.
Yeah, so defensive Terastallization over on Toler's side compared to a little bit more of an offensive Terastallization on Olivia's side here. As Qianpao does use Icicle Crash here, connects into the Urshifu, will get the KO there, really wanting to hit that Sinistra, but Toler being content to just sacrifice that Urshifu that has already kind of done a little bit of damage, but also taken a lot of damage in its own right, as Landers over on Olivia's side will set up a substitute here, trying to stall out and just hide behind the substitute, but it looks like Archaludon will target it down and just break that substitute.
Yeah, I think that ends up being a pretty strong turn for Olivia. She gets one KO with the Urshifu and finds where the Terastallization is. The Sinistra now with no Protect, no Terastallization to get away from it is looking so vulnerable. Landorus just uses the substitute like a pseudo Protect. If no target goes into that slot that turn, then Landorus is able to cash it in on a future turn, but because it just gets broken, it means that Landorus doesn't have to try an Earth Power into a bug type Archaludon.
Yep, and ooh, Sinistra dodges the Icicle Crash right there as Landorus on Olivia's side continues to try to hide behind a substitute. So critical miss right there for Olivia, as Archaludon will use Flash Cannon to break that Landorus sub, but now the Sinistra will be able to go for a Trick Room and put the speed control back in Toler's hands.
Yeah, I mean, just a crucial turn. I have to wonder if the Icicle Crash actually would have been enough damage. Of course, the Stellar Charge was spent KOing Urshifu on the previous turn, and so it would have not been boosted. I almost expected an Icicle Crash plus Sludge Bomb double up to definitely take that KO, but now Sinistra takes no damage for the turn. Landorus just gets a substitute broken and doesn't put out any damage either, and is now the thing moving second, so it just has to protect itself, but it's now looking very vulnerable to a Flash Cannon.
Yeah, so Landorus protects itself here, does not want to take a hit from the Machagacha and the Flash Cannon, as Machagacha will connect now into... Oh, actually Qianpao dodges the attack. No chance of a burn, but here's Archaludon's Flash Cannon into that Qianpao slot, bringing it down to its Focus Sash here. So, great turn right there from Toler. Unfortunate Protect right there from Olivia's side because Landers was pretty free, and there is the Ice Crash. Sinistra hangs on with just a sliver of health and will heal back with its Citrus Berry. So, oh man, that Protect on Landers, thinking that that Flash Cannon would land in that slot, but instead, Archaludon targeting down that Qianpao instead. Yeah,
but it's just looking so difficult now. I mean, the Machagacha, if Landers hadn't protected, that could have still ended. Would have done a bunch of that health because Landers spent half of its health bar just getting substitutes broken. Rage Powder makes sure that Sucker Punch doesn't pick up an easy KO onto the Sinistra, does indeed just fail, and that means that is Archaludon ready to go out on the offense with a Flash Cannon.
And the Flash Cannon hits into that Landers, will get the KO here. Olivia will have to go back to the drawing board here because this Qianpao at 1 HP does not have what it takes to be able to take on this Archaludon and that Sinistra. Of course, Toler doubling up really into that Qianpao slot with that Focus Sash earlier. It's just the Machagacha from that Sinistra miss. So Toler that turn maybe realizing, hey, let's just knock out this Qianpao. I'll deal with this Landers in the next coming turns. I'm not too worried about it. It's bug type, right?
Yeah, I think such a really well-played game by Toler. That first couple of turns really had him on the back foot, was giving up Pokemon way too easily. The Pelipper just goes down quickly, but was able to find the path back into the game, which was to get the Trick Room, get the Archaludon out on the offense, and then indeed get a second Trick Room and continue that attack. It would have been easy for all the players to kind of be too back-footed by how bad that first turn went, but Toler saw the path and made it happen. And I think for Olivia, the offense was almost there when Trick Room expired. I think she committed to this game plan of sacrificing the Rillaboom and the Ogerpon to make sure to get out of the Tailwind and have those two giant attackers, or out of the Trick Room and have those two giant attackers as it expired. But Toler just navigated well where the damage was coming, was able to sacrifice the Urshifu into the Stellar boosted Icicle Crash and then get the Trick Room afterwards.
Yeah, and this turn here was pretty crucial. You know, Ogerpon laying down a lot of damage, but that Urshifu escaping and retreating back to Toler's side of the field, being able to set up and just switch in and sacrifice later on, you know, taking that the boosted Stellar type Icicle Crash, you know, kind of allowed Sinistra to survive, right? So, yeah, very smart play from both players, and it's one thing that Olivia has to look out for is making sure that this Archaludon does not have the opportunity to set up as much. Don't allow it to get that special attack boost. Try not to give it... I mean, the stamina boost didn't matter too much, right?
And I'm not sure the special attack boost matters too much either, right? In the end, the Archaludon was just able to continue to put out attacks. I think, if I was Olivia and looking at two things, one, I think the Rillaboom and the Ogerpon feel very important in this match because the Urshifu is such a threat, but they can't be used to just kind of diffuse the Urshifu and then be stuck on the field because they cannot fight very well against the Sinestcha and the Archaludon, but it's hard for Olivia's team to switch other things in for those Pokemon. Maybe if you have something bulkier like the King Gambit that can at least try to come into a Flash Cannon or a Draco Meteor, you can try to get out of that position, but I think Olivia just got stuck in a position that was difficult to fight. And then I think the other thing is the speed control. We talked about it before the game. Both players need to be watching it very carefully. The two Trick Rooms were really the time during which Toler was pressing the attack. Outside of Trick Room, it always felt like Olivia was the one controlling the pace of the game.
Both players now locked in for game 2. Rillaboom and Landorus on Olivia's side of the field, Pelipper and Archaludon for Toler's side of the field here. So a little bit of a change up here on Olivia's side of the field. The Landorus and the Rillaboom, no Ogerpon to be seen just yet. Toler leading the exact same thing here, but, a little bit of different circumstances. Olivia's side has that fake out pressure from that Rillaboom. Could stop Pelipper from really doing anything just with the fake out and breaking that focus sash, most importantly.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind landing it. Not too many things on Olivia's side can threaten a 1-hit KO against Pelipper anyway, so if you imagine the focus sash is not that high of a priority, you're probably looking at a 2-hit KO. I think it's interesting to note that Toler did just switch straight out of this position. Last time Archaludon switched out, did not use a Terastallization, and Olivia used that vacuum to get a KO. Both players will be thinking about that. Toler may be trying to think, maybe she won't go after it anyway, I can just stay in and attack, and Olivia will be wondering if maybe it will, on the other hand, just stay in, go for the Terastallization this time.
Archaludon terastallizes into that bug type, makes the matchup significantly better against the Landorus on Olivia's side here. Will pick up the resist to that very powerful Earth Power on that Landorus, as Pelipper will protect itself here. Gonna preserve that focus sash, but here's Rillaboom going for the fake out into that Pelipper protect, and Landorus could possibly be free to set up a substitute, but just goes for an Earth Power into that Archaludon instead. Not very effective, so not much damage being dealt. Does get a stamina boost, which will allow it to take more physical attacks from the Rillaboom over on Olivia's side. And here's an Electro Shot from that Archaludon, will boost its special attack by 1 stage and do some damage to this Rillaboom.
Yeah, looking to get those special attack boosts, chip damage onto Rillaboom, but you also need boosts to be able to actually threaten with KOs into Landorus. Just a Flash Cannon at this point wouldn't be enough damage. Archaludon, I think Toler recognized that as that last game went on, it became more and more clear that eventually the bug terastallization was going to happen on Archaludon, so why not just go for it right here? Neither Rillaboom or Landorus fights that well into the bug Archaludon, and it's able to have a bunch of presence on the field.
Yep, Landorus protects itself here, does not want to take a potential Flash Cannon. Here's a Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom, hits into that Pelipper, but Pelipper hits a Hurricane instead, does big damage, and gets KO on that Rillaboom. So big damage from that Pelipper with that Hurricane, 100% accurate in the rain, and here is Archaludon going for a Flash Cannon, but it is going to land into Landorus' Protect.
Hey, I think just really smart targeting by Toler here. Understands that the Electro Shot on the previous turn gave Archaludon enough special attack to really threaten this Landorus, but also chipped the Rillaboom low enough that Hurricane is able to pick up a KO. That puts Olivia in a really difficult position because she could try to Sludge Bomb and Grassy Glide to double up on the Pelipper, prevent that Hurricane just with damage, but Landorus would have paid the price with taking a Flash Cannon. There was no great way out of that turn, so Rillaboom goes down.
Ogerpon on Olivia's side will knock out the Pelipper with a Horn Leech here. So Pelipper has been knocked out. Makes it a little bit safer for that Ogerpon to stay out onto the field with no threat of a Hurricane from the Pelipper, as Landorus on Olivia's side will use Substitute. Will be able to hide behind the Substitute for a turn here at least, because in the previous game that Landorus was continuously getting its Substitute faded, but here's another Electro Shot from the Archaludon, lands into that Ogerpon, does so much damage to it at +2 stages of increased special attack. Ogerpon does hang on and will start recovering health because of that Grassy Train, but it is hurt.
It is absolutely hurting. Now Archaludon, 2 stages of special attack, is looking so tanky. And the Rillaboom is from Olivia's side is actually helping Toler here. You can see the resisted Earth Power. You need to accumulate damage onto this Archaludon somehow, because you're not going to pick up some instant 1-hit KO against it. It's going to be a slow path. But then meanwhile, the Earth Power has been healed off, and the Terastallization has really flipped the relationship of this Landorus and the Archaludon. There's no great offensive presence, and so it's just substituting, trying to wait and buy time, and meanwhile Archaludon is pumping out damage.
And Landorus now will terastallize into that poison type, a very common terastallization to be able to get stronger sludge bombs and also just be a pretty decent way to get rid of your 4x X weak to ice. But, you know, here's another attack into Archaludon, will boost its stamina defenses again, and here's a sludge bomb from Landorus. It is going to hit into that Archaludon. How much damage it does, but Archaludon hangs on with just a sliver of health again. So Archaludon just hanging in there and will still continue to threaten with more attacks here. Archaludon now 3 stages of increased special attack, an Electro Shot, charging up, will get this KO onto the Ogerpon, and Sinistcha will be free. Well, yeah, Sinistcha will just be free to set up another Trick Room to allow the speed control to be in Toler's hands.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking so difficult for Olivia from this point. She really needed the damage to come through that last turn and pick up the KO on Archaludon. This match looks very different if it goes down there, but instead the Trick Room goes up. We saw how pivotal that was in the last game, and this time instead of Toler needing the Trick Room to come back from a game where he's at a huge deficit, instead he's the one up in this game. Some important threats already dealt with. Still, it's the Landorus and the Qianpao on the field. These are the Pokemon that provide the most offensive firepower for Olivia. The Archaludon is weakened. You have to wonder if a Sucker Punch might be enough damage, but there's been 3 stamina boosts. Now it's going to mean that Sucker Punch really does not probably have the damage to pick up that KO. You also have the Terastallization already spent. It can't be the Stellar Terastallization on Qianpao, and so that's going to leave the Sinistcha and the Archaludon free to go out and deal a ton of damage.
Qianpao protects itself here as Sinistcha will use Life Dew, gonna heal back health for that Archaludon. So Toler's team, a team that really values having this Archaludon stick around onto the field, get boosts, whether it's the physical defense or if it is the just special attack boost, as Archaludon will land a Flash Cannon into that Qianpao Protect. Here is a Sludge Bomb from that Landorus. How much damage does it do?
Oh my god!
Wow. 1 hit point remaining on this Archaludon. Crazy.
Yeah, that is so close. You have to wonder if there's a safer option to just Rage Powder away the target's coming from the other side, but instead gets the heal off into Archaludon, maybe hoping for a double protect on Olivia's side of the field, and is able to just withstand Archaludon surviving at 1 HP. Really critical turn, because if Toler had dealt no damage on that turn, hit Flash Canning into a protect, and then just lost the Archaludon, well, this starts to look back into Olivia's favor.
Yeah, and we have not seen... Toler has not yet revealed his 4th Pokemon. There's still 1 more Pokemon hiding in the back there. So Olivia... It seems like Olivia still has chances.
Absolutely. I mean, the Focus Sash and the Substitute mean that there's no one-hit KOs being taken here. Instead, a double protect could really make life difficult for Toler if that's another turn just wasted into that target, especially because the Rage Powder is somewhat forced now. It means there's not a Machagacha coming out to break the Substitute either. Yeah,
so Archaludon uses Flash Cannon, though, hits into that Landorus, will break that Substitute as Qianpao gets that double protect, but, you know, you hate to see it when you try to get a double protect with a Pokemon, and, well, it wasn't even targeted. Landorus now will use Sludge Bomb here, is going to be redirected into that Sinistcha. Does pretty good damage, honestly, so the Citrus Berry will heal it back up to over 50%, but, you know, important thing is that the Qianpao Focus Sash is still intact. Landorus, unfortunately, not hiding behind a Substitute, so it is threatened right now.
Yeah, absolutely threatened. The Archaludon probably still low enough for a Sucker Punch, makes it scary to do anything but click Rage Powder, but if you do click Rage Powder, Archaludon can only either deal with Landorus or take Qianpao to Focus Sash. Either way, there's going to be an attack coming in. They'll probably just KO the Sinistcha, then there'll just be 1 turn left of Trick Room that's easy enough to double protect through, and it'll come a lot down to what that last Pokemon is for Toler.
Sinistcha forced to Rage Powder, does not want to get Sucker Punch. Qianpao does go for the Sucker Punch here, will fail because it's going to be redirected by that Sinistcha Rage Powder. Archaludon will use Flash Cannon, and that knocks out the Landorus, and now it's just this Qianpao with the Focus Sash against the Sinistcha, and the Archaludon still remaining, and another Pokemon in Toler's back.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolutely massive turn, right? Both players kind of understand the 50-50 element of that turn. Sucker Punch is a move that produces 50-50s, and Olivia gets it wrong there. Fails a Sucker Punch, gets no damage out of that turn, while Landorus just goes down. It means there's no trade that would have at least kept it playable, and so Toler takes the game, takes the set, just really well played.
Toler moves on to 5-0, 6-0?
5-0, yeah.
5-0. Toler moves on to 5-0. Olivia will fall to 4-1, but of course, 7 is a magic number. Olivia still has chances to hit that 7-win mark in order to advance to day 2. But what beautiful play from both of these players, right? You know, Olivia had pieces in order to try to break Toler, but Toler just adjusted just a little bit better, and that just hid behind that Sinistra really well.
Yeah, I think the Sinistra was like very clearly the MVP in that match. It was just a little bit too bulky, a little bit the wrong type for Olivia to ever be able to take it down in one turn. That means it was able to get up trick rooms and then threaten either damage in that first game. It did so much with Machagacha spread out over all those turns, or just the Rage Powder and life to keeping our Chalerdon safe, so that our Chalerdon was the one able to deal so much damage in the second game.
Yep, and of course, taking a quick look at the replays here, that Pelipper was able to land a huge Hurricane into the Rillaboom to open up the game, but again, that just kind of opened up the opportunity for Toler to hide behind his 2 MVPs of this match, in my opinion, the Archaludon and that Sinistra. You know, Sinistra, as you mentioned, just being able to provide so much support. Yeah, going into team preview, you and I had mentioned that Sinistra is a hard Pokemon to bring just because of how many resists there are, but you know, Sinistra has a lot of utility. We saw the Life Dude be very important to be able to allow Archaludon to hang on with just 1 hit point. Has access to that Rage Powder, gets burns on the Machagacha. So we've got a big burn on that Rillaboom from the Machagacha in game 1, so Sinistra just doing work.
Yeah, didn't have to fight against King Gambit, which would have been the biggest problem for Sinistra on Olivia's side. But if you're looking from Olivia's perspective, you can understand why the King Gambit was very difficult to bring. There's a Landorus Incarnate on the other side. There's an Archaludon with Body Press on the other side. These are things you do not want to have to fight against with King Gambit, and so tried to find the damage against Sinistra in other ways and came just short.
Yeah, but you know, congratulations to Toler. This is a team that he's been cooking up for 4 months, gets to bring it, gets to showcase it on stream. I mean, a team that you bring, I mean, you've been working on this team for 4 months now, and then you bring it to your first competition, and then you're 5-0. You must be feeling pretty good about your team building skills and the fact that you get to showcase it on broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely, and showcase probably very different modes of it. This team feels very diverse in the way it can play the game. The Sinistra Trick Room mode, just pressing offense with Rain and Urshifu. I'm hoping we get to see a little bit more of it over the weekend.
And, you know, it's just really good to hear from, well, you know, most likely there's going to be a winner's interview, and then Toler can break down the team even more than that, so you don't have to wait to watch more of it later on. But again, Olivia also had the pieces too. Let's talk a little bit more about Olivia's team. A lot of physical attackers had the pieces. Unfortunately, Toler just kind of had the better predictions, I would say. Kind of like guessed a little bit better in terms of like, okay, well, Chien Pao's going to double protect here, so if it gets it, then I might as well go for the attack onto the Landorus and try to break that substitute, right?
Yeah,
there are a lot of turns like that.
An understanding that the Landorus was really what was still consistently pressuring offense. The Chien Pao, the defense boost, had meant that its damage output had been reduced because the bug terastallization, removing the option for Sacred Sword really because it would have been resisted. I think the Archaludon is so interesting to watch because the game has gotten very physical. There are a lot of these teams that look like Olivia's with 4 or 5 physical attackers on them. And Archaludon can really take advantage of that. And it felt throughout the match like Toler was finding the right ways, the right buttons to press. Whether it was the Archaludon having the defensive terastallization immediately and just fighting from the early game, or finding the position to have Sinistra and understanding that the Trick Room and the speed control was the button to press in game 1, felt like he was one step ahead. Yep,
I mean, I think it was game 1 where Sinistra was down to like less than 50% health, and then I think like maybe 5 turns later, after all the Machagachas, after I don't even think it consumed its Citrus Berry that game, but like through all the Machagachas, through
Grassy Terrain was up,
just being around, I think that Sinistra healed back to full health. So that Sinistra's just a pesky Pokemon that just hung around for a very long time, and it was just hard to break, as you had mentioned. Yeah,
I mean, it has staying power for itself and produces staying power for the rest of your team as well. And the staying power mattered, right? The Sinistra being back at full health at the in-game of game 1 is why Toler was able to leave it in to try to take an Icicle Crash and go for a Trick Room. The Icicle Crash missed, which meant the Trick Room was very easy, but then we saw that Icicle Crash land a turn later and not pick up the KO on Sinistra because it had gotten all the way back to full health.
Yeah, and I think it hung on with like, again, just like barely, it just barely survived, right? Like, and all because of that. It's crazy. Like, you think back, and you have to think back like turns ahead, right? Like that Urshifu that was heavily damaged came in clutch because it was able to switch in, kind of just sacrifice itself, got knocked out, but then because of that, it allowed Sinistra to be able to survive the Ice Crash next turn and then set up another Trick Room.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting part of the Stellar Terra trade-off. We haven't seen the Stellar Terastallization enough to really have a bunch of players get familiar with different moves you can make around in different ways to try to take advantage of it. But I think Toler was smart there to get that that boost burnt and made sure that Sinestro was tanky enough to take that Icicle Crash.
Yeah, great plays from both players. I'm a believer in Sinestro now.
Yeah?
I'm a believer in Sinestro.
May mean you're a believer in Toler this weekend.
Huh?
May mean that you're a believer in Toler this weekend. I'm not sure how many other Sinestras are out there in the field.
I think there's a few. I think there's not just one. There's a few. So I think we're fine. Like, I'm not just a Toler believer. I believe in the Pokemon of Sinestro.
You're a Sinestra bandwagoner now.
I'm not. Okay, not a bandwagoner. I'm not a bandwagoner.
No?
I'm a believer.
You waited to see it win at 5-0 on stream. I think that's
not a bandwagoner.
all right.
I believed in Sinestro the entire time. Don't you remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you were telling me this morning how much.
Sinestro, I believe. I'm excited to see where this team goes. I mean, like, you said that there's possibly other modes too. Like, we only saw this mode of like Archaludon, Pelipper, Sinestro, and Urshifu.
Well, let's not guess at it anymore. I think Toler's ready for the interview, ready to tell us a little bit more about the team.
Thank you very much, Len and Dwee. I'm joined by Toler Webb, our round 5 victor on the stream. Congratulations on the victory. How did that matchup feel?
So before the tournament, like a few days before the tournament, I was grass on Archaludon. And so those Landorus's were a lot scarier because if I terastallized, then I would just take a Sludge Bomb and faint. But switching to Bug 3 days before the event panned out in that case. It was very hard for Olivia to find an opening to get it knocked out, and the Trick Room also like is a big danger for her.
Yeah, that's exactly what Len talked about in the opening of the show, was that Landorus is such a frustrating Pokemon to deal with that you know, if you're weak to ground, like Archaludon is, then you want to, try to switch it so grass resists ground. But then now you're weak to Sludge Bomb, right?
Right.
So how do you deal with Pokemon like Landorus and Raging Bolt and other Pokemon that it just seems like no matter what you terastallize into, they can still very much pressure you for a lot of damage?
Yeah, so one of the upsides of being Assault Vest Archaludon, right, is that even at +2, Raging Bolt doesn't do that much with Dragon Pulse, and they don't run Draco. So I can take a hit and heal back up with Sinestro if I need to, in those kinds of circumstances. Against Landorus, Grass was a huge liability when I was running it. The upside of Grass, of course, is that I can sit in front of a Mungus more safely. And so it's a balance with every Rain team that's built. Do you put Grass on Archaludon, or do you put Grass on Urshifu? And Water Urshifu is obviously really good in general, and Bug Archaludon or Flying Archaludon gives you a much better Landorus matchup, which is typically very tricky. You're giving them Sansir, they're faster than your whole team, all that sort of stuff. And so it was sort of a toss-up. I was Grass Archaludon and Water Urshifu for a while, and being Bug lets me circumvent all of the problems with Landorus, since you resist ground, and then you don't take too much from Sludge Bomb, and you don't take too much from Chen-Pao's Icicle Crash, which Flying has the problem of.
Right.
So Bug is like a very niche Terra for Archaludon that helps against literally Chen-Pao Landorus. But Grass would have helped me if I had fought an Amoonguss. So it's sort of like this tricky balance.
Well, one thing I was saying, call me crazy, Toler, but like, I was inspired by the Stellar Terra Chen-Pao on the field. Like, what about Stellar Terra Archaludon? Because Archaludon uses like 7 or 8 different viable attacks.
Yeah.
I feel like the Stellar is a possibility.
So Assault Vest Archaludon, because it can't protect and has no real defensive resources against Landorus, it just faints to Earth Power. You almost can't survive it, even it's got such a low base special defense. So Assault Vest Archaludon, absolutely. I'm not running Stellar. Yeah. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm not running Indeedee Armarouge in Charlotte last year, and I'm not running Stellar Terra Assault Vest Archaludon. However, this is not a new idea. Electroshot Power Herb Sturdy Archaludon at max speed next to a Tornadus is an existing strategy. And that Pokemon is, with Timid, is 1 point faster than Adamant Urshifu. So you can Stellar Terra that, get your Electroshot boosted up, and then drop a Stellar Terra boosted Draco, and it's pretty crazy. So
That is awesome.
All the strange Archelodon tech.
See, this is what we bring you on for, Toler. You're such a veteran of the game. You know all the ins and outs of
Archelodon.
Pokemon. You know, here of Archelodon, but obviously all Pokemon. So here we are at the end of Regulation F. How are you feeling? Obviously, you've had a very positive experience in this format as a regional champion. So now that we're ending this and getting ready to go on to a new style of format in VGC, what's your thoughts on the last 4 months of this format?
It's been awesome to have a format that's gone so long. I think the quick turnarounds of last year were tricky to handle. I really struggle with the Reg B to Reg C transition. For the people that you remember, that's like adding in the Ruin Pokemon was enough to throw me off. So I've really appreciated the way the meta has had time to develop. I've gotten to try a lot of different stuff. It's totally different than it was in February. You know, we didn't even think about Raging Bolt with Calm Mind then. I really appreciated the chance to see it shine. There's still such a huge variety of teams. I do know people are sick of it, but I'm not as much. It's just hard to find games at this point. You know, you gotta go on the in-game ladder. You wait a little longer for your next set. So yeah, it's hard to get games now because people are getting geared up for Regulation G, but this has been a really wonderful format and been really diverse and interesting. So yeah, I've been really grateful for it.
Yeah, and you know, you're more than halfway done today. Here you are, 5-0 with 4 rounds left on the day. So obviously you're feeling positive. Just 2 more will give you that guaranteed slot into day 2. So do you have any shout outs for any friends that helped your team build, or maybe some family members watching at home?
Yeah, so I built this version of Rain. I think I said my fun fact on stream was I've been working on Rain for 4 months. So I built lots of versions of Rain. I built this version of Rain for a friend of mine, Bukunmi, who is a pharmacist. So he's really busy. He didn't really get to practice much, but he brought it to Vancouver and it didn't pan out very well. So I wanted to say thanks to him for testing it out and seeing what some of the flaws were and what wasn't working, and giving me the chance to like challenge my own beliefs about how to build Sinistcha. Because that's really the big difference here. We had almost the same 6 get 10th in EUIC with Amoonguss. So big thanks to him. Big thanks to, as usual, Yotam, Justin Karras, Kazuki Kanehira, who's actually, although he keeps not bringing Rain to tournaments after he day 2'd with it, it's always been like a good sounding board, and it really challenges a lot of my ideas on the team. And as always, my beautiful girlfriend Casey, and my mom Jennifer. She is awesome, and I'm so grateful for both of them.